Hi students, so today we are going to talk about why Pluto is no longer a planet. So now Pluto is regarded as a dwarf planet. It has been demoted from the list of 9 planets. So altogether there are 8 planets now. So I have included Pluto as well for a moment, not as a planet, just as a just as an object. Okay. So I have arranged the list of planets, names of the planets in the order of the distance from the sun. So first planet which is nearest, which is in this order is Mercury, followed by Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and then Pluto. The orbit of the Pluto are shown in red color. So if you see closely, this orbit of Pluto is is inclined actually, or it is different from the orbit of other planets. The orbit of Pluto, P, the orbit of Pluto is different from the orbit of other planets. So why it is so? Because Pluto is surrounded by a belt of dense icy object. A belt of dense icy object, and that particular belt is known as Kuiper belt. Okay. So Kuiper belt is a belt of dense icy object, right? So actually what happens in the year 2006, till the year before the year 2006 actually, there were only two criteria which was required to be followed to be a planet. So what were those two criteria? So those two criteria were orbit the sun. The planet has to orbit the sun, which is fine. So all the 9 are doing. Second criteria was that the size of the planet should be large enough so that its gravity, right, should be very strong. Strong gravity can result in the formation of nearly a spherical object. What I mean to say is that consider this as a planet. Almost all the planets are nearly spherical in shape. So why they are? Because their mass is very high, right? Mass is so high that the gravity makes very nearly spherical shape, right? The shape of the planet should be spherical. So that's why the mass of the planet should be high, large enough. So second criteria is also fulfilled well by Pluto and all other 9 planets. So no problem in that. First criteria is okay, orbit the sun, large size. What is in the year 2006, scientific community came up with a new criterion, right? So as per that criterion, the mass of the planet should be so high that it should clear the nearby objects in its orbit. I repeat, the mass of the planet should be so high that it should be able to clear the nearby objects in its orbit. So this is what I have written. Its orbit should be clear of nearby objects. That means its motion should not get affected. Should not get affected because its mass should be so high that it should clear the nearby object. Nearby object means like how to clear the nearby objects. So directly what I am trying to say here is that the motion of a planet should not get influenced by the gravity of the nearby objects. And if you see, the Pluto is surrounded by a belt of dense icy objects, right? So this is dense object, and this particular belt is known as Kuiper belt, right? So because Pluto used to spend some of its time in the Kuiper belt, right? So the shape of its orbit is bit different from the shape of the orbit of other planets. The orbit of Pluto is slightly inclined in comparison to the orbits of other planets, right? So because of that, if you see clearly, the orbit of Pluto intersects the orbit of Neptune. So sometimes in its revolution, in its orbit around the Earth, sometimes it becomes nearer to Sun in comparison to Neptune. So that is the reason actually. So basically, the main reason is that it is situated very close to Kuiper belts, right? Kuiper belt consists of very dense icy object, the gravity of which affects the revolution of Pluto around the Sun. So the third criterion, we can say that it is not fully met by Pluto, but it is well met by 8 other planets. So that is the reason Pluto is not a planet. It has been demoted from the list of 9 planets. Now the number of planets in the solar system is 8, and Pluto is regarded as a dwarf planet. So Pluto is now a dwarf planet. Okay, that's all.